Ne vedo 24 magari. Comunque partiamo intanto, ragazzi.
Ok.
So, good afternoon. Today we can start the lesson with Professor Michele Luglio, a telecommunication professor in engineering faculty at Tor Vergata University. Then with the Cisco system, Dario De Santis and Jason Parente. So, Martina,
yeah,
you can introduce the guest speakers.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Today, it's a big honor and pleasure for me to introduce Michele Luglio, Professor Michele Luglio, which we talk about the 5G and all the challenges related to this topic. Professor Luglio got the degree in electronic engineering at the University of Rome Tor Vergata and the PhD in telecommunication. In 1992, he worked at ComSat Laboratories in the USA, and in 2001 and 2002, he was visiting professor at the University of California in Los Angeles. From 2004 to present, he is the associate professor of communication at University of Rome Tor Vergata, and he teaches internet via satellite and fundamentals of telecommunication. His research is focused on network protocols, resource management, heterogeneous networks, and 5G development, with particular regard to satellite networks. He works on innovative satellite communication system for multimedia services and coordinates the Laboratory of Satellite Multimedia Group at the University of Rome Tor Vergata. He has been the Italian expert, delegate, and co-chair of the Advisory Committee 5JAC of ESA, and finally is president of NIDA Consortium.
Thank you, Martina. Now we move to our speakers, Mr. Dario De Santis. Actually, currently is the senior manager. He's a senior product manager at Cisco in USA, United States. He has a background as a bachelor and master of science in computer science and management, and then he's been graduated in the MBA at the Bocconi School of Management. He joined Cisco in 2016. He's very focused. He was very focused on artificial intelligence, on workplace transformation, and mostly about all the devices, all the tools that were provided. Then he joined Cisco and is leading currently the strategic WebEx integrations. And his contribution today for the cloud platform, for the introduction of what happens in Cisco in USA is very important for us. So a very unique guest that will provide us important elements in a great company such as Cisco. Then we introduce Jason. Jason Parent is the new program product manager as well in Cisco, but in Canada. And he has a background in marketing and finance at Windsor and has a lot of agile certifications. He has applied for Cisco many years ago, 21 years ago, and currently leads a senior team of mechanical, electrical, test, and supply chain. Is very focused and experienced in the creation and implementing of GTM strategies, as well the design, build, and risk mitigation, and as well he experienced in IBM in Toronto as a supply chain associate. So for us, it's a great pleasure to have those managers as well as the professor for the introduction. So we leave them the floor, and again, thank you for this unique opportunity.
So thanks, Martin. And so we can start with Professor Michele Luglio. And thanks a lot to delegates. They are working very hard to organize everything. And thanks a lot. So Michele,
I have the floor.
Oh, fantastic.
Okay, so first of all, let me thank you in particular and your students for the organization of this seminar and to have invited me. I am very honored to participate and in particular to open this seminar. And as far as I understand, the seminar tries to approach and develop some business concept, because it is in the frame of the business faculty of our university, but I am in engineering, and I will try to give some information about some engineer topics. Now, I am particularly...
Michele, our scope is that, so the course is interdisciplinary. So, and we can combine, you know, people with different subjects. And this is very, very unique and original for us.
But I apologize in advance, because in my brief speech, I will try also to give some elements on business models, but you will forgive me to pretend to be expert of business models. You will forgive me. But anyway, I am particularly happy to open this seminar today, because in this period, in these years, from a technological point of view in the telecommunication sector, we are living a revolution. The revolution is called 5G. 5G actually is such a revolution, it's such a change in the telecommunication paradigms that it would deserve to start the number from beginning. Now, I don't have time to develop this concept, but very shortly, while first generation, second, third, and fourth, as concerned just the mobile access to the network, and in this respect, it is good to name first generation. Actually, first generation was not named with no number. The numbers started from the second, but it was right to number 2, 3, and 4. But actually, 5G concerns not only the mobile access to the network, but also the management of the core network, of the fixed network. So that this is a reason, would be a good reason to start again from zero. But anyway, the 5G is a real revolution for two aspects, from technological point of view and from business point of view. I repeat, at the end of my speech, I will try to give you some idea, and again, you will forgive me for this. But as concerns technological aspects, the real revolution is justified by the fact that the improvement from technological point of view of this generation of telecommunication system with respect to the previous ones is on what we call, technicians, physical layer. Physical layer means the capacity. What it is the aspect of the telecommunication system impacting the capacity. Capacity means how many bits per second you can transmit. With second generation, we were able to transmit 9.6 kilobit per second. Kilo is 1,000. With 3G, we were able to transmit up to 384 kilobit per second. With 4G, we were able, and we are able, actually, we are using 4G, we are able to transmit up to 40 megabit per second. With 5G, we will be able, not today, because it needs time. 5G is started to be developed, and the first deployment doesn't reach the objective capacity, but the target capacity is 5 gigabit per second, also 6-7 gigabit per second. You understand the amplitude of the jump that we will do. Instead of 40 megabit, 5 gigabit. There are many order of magnitude. But my opinion is that this doesn't justify the revolution. This doesn't justify what I was saying 2 minutes ago, to start again the number of the generation. The revolution is justified by the other innovation that is introduced with 5G. That is how the network shall be managed with 5G. Because first of all, the network will be, the network management will be based only on software. And then I am curious to listen from the colleagues from Cisco, how Cisco is organizing, because Cisco is is the most important vendor of network devices all over the world, devices that traditionally are made of software and hardware. Now the network management will be only software. Of course, the hardware doesn't disappear, but the hardware will be a computer of general purpose, and all the management will be software. And this is the reason of the revolution, because as everybody knows, also non-expert of telecommunication are aware of the advantages on using software. For example, the flexibility, for example, the possibility to upgrade and update the software very easily, as well as when we update the operating system of the PC, or we download a new version of an application. And also the flexibility in the management, in the configuration of the network. Because another very, very important, maybe the most important improvement that will be introduced with 5G is the concept of slice. The slice is a portion of infrastructure, of a telecommunication infrastructure, that is set up, this portion, to satisfy the requirements of one or more services. So, and this is the beginning of my tentative to give you some business information. The starting point from now on, when 5G will be fully deployed, not from today, but I hope tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, the starting point for 5G is the service, not the infrastructure. Today, the approach is the infrastructure, is infrastructure driven. There are operators with their own infrastructure. If you need some telecommunication service, you ask to operator number one, what you can offer. Okay, I go to the operator number two, what you can offer, and so on, and I will choose the best of the 5, 3, or 10 operators that I am consulting. Now the starting point will be the service. It is the contrary, exactly the contrary. What do you need? The user. This is the question to ask to the user. What do you need? What kind of service? What kind of quality of service you need? And we can build the slice. And this is just one aspect of the innovation introduced by slice, because the other very, very disruptive innovation is that the slice can be composed of portion of infrastructures or of more than one operator. This is really, really disruptive, because today, and since many years, we know the virtual operators. Virtual operators in telecommunication means, for example, in Italy, just to mention some in Italy, that Carrefour, Poste Italiane, and others, they sell the SIM. You can subscribe a contract for telecommunication service to these operators, but they have not the frequency bands. They didn't apply, they didn't obtain the license to operate. They have a contract with one big operator, Team, Vodafone, and so on, and they get they got from them a portion of the infrastructure of Vodafone, TIM, and so on, and they provide service to their final user. With 5G, the slice is possible to build the slice with the infrastructure of many operators, because the aim is to satisfy the requirement, the service requirement of the final user. And if one infrastructure is not sufficient, is not enough to satisfy all the requirements, I can build this slice in such a way. And this implies a new scenario. Also, okay, these are the aspects of business that I will try to touch, because now it is difficult, not impossible, but it is difficult that the big operators will build the slice asking the infrastructure to other operators. I believe that 5G could, let me use may, give the rise to a lot of small companies or just companies not linked in particular to one operator, which will be able, will have as a target business to build slice to satisfy the requirements of some particular users. And this is according to my opinion, and I will be happy to share the opinion with the other speakers or the other or people in the audience about this. Now, let me go to the conclusions. Now, there is in the telecommunication possible infrastructure that can be used to implement and to win the challenge. The title of my speech is 5G, a challenge to win. Actually, it is a real challenge. I am confident that we will win this challenge, but it's not straightforward. But there is a technology, a particular technology that is the satellite systems, on which I dedicated more than 30 years of my professional life, that it may seem weird because one of the slogan of 5G is zero latency. I don't have time to comment on this. Actually, this is a statement for marketing, because zero latency is impossible, physically speaking. But anyway, 5G aims to reduce the latency, in particular for some subset of services. For example, autonomous driving. Autonomous driving needs very short latency, because they must arrive at the reaction time even faster than the human reaction time when there is driving. So, but instead, the satellites are usually characterized by having long delays, because the satellite can stay at up to 40,000 kilometers from the Earth. This means a huge delay. But for a subset of services, for example, CDN means content delivery networks. Content delivery networks is the technology which allows us today to watch movies from Netflix, Amazon Prime, and so on and so forth. The content delivery networks means a number of servers distributed over the territory, very close to the users, where they put the movie, they put the contents that can be movie, can be pictures, and so on. The satellite is very efficient in feeding a lot of users around the territory. It is more efficient than a terrestrial network, because with satellite, with one channel, you can feed up to 1 billion of servers. Instead, with the terrestrial network, you must set up many connections. So CDN today represents 90% of the traffic generated in the network, more or less. The colleagues that will follow me can confirm or comment on this. But anyway, even if it is not 90%, it is most of the traffic. It is a very important service today. Now, also on this, I believe that some new business model can be set up. So I would conclude here. I hope to have given you some very, very short idea. Of course, I didn't have time to expand some concept. I am available, of course, for question now, but in case of curiosity to update my presentation in a further opportunity. Thank you very much for the invitation again.
Michele, thanks a lot, and we are very happy, and so we can take a lot of good messages from this speech. And we can collect the question at the end of the seminar. And you can stay with us, right? You can, okay, fantastic, fantastic. Carlo, hello, Carlo Pompei from Telecom Italia is connected with us. So we can start with
hello, Andrea.
Ciao,
hello,
hi, ciao.
Hi, hi, hi.
Grazie mille, grazie mille.
Prego.
So maybe it's worth to spend a few words on what Michele said. You know, in representing Cisco, we are not working specifically directly on 5G. Jason and I work on devices for collaboration. However, you know, we can absolutely speak a little bit about 5G because it's in front of every one of us inside Cisco. We have, in fact, specific business unit dedicated to incubating emerging 5G applications and devices. Because Cisco now always wants to wants to keep being the leader, the world leader in internet and telecommunication infrastructure. You know, 75% of the internet today passes through Cisco devices. Which is a very important number. This means we are the market leader by far. And 5G, as Michele was correctly saying earlier, it's a big revolution that impacts our business greatly. You know, imagine all these specific applications that once weren't possible using wireless. For instance, you have the operation of a large, oil and gas field plant somewhere, and you are, producing oil. You're drilling a drilling rig, and you have to continuously receive feedback on the pressure of a specific, well, to avoid blowouts or big incidents. And we are talking about latencies in the order of 4 milliseconds or so that are acceptable in the case, and a higher latency would generate big disasters. All these particular production plants once were all wired up, and today companies are looking at utilizing very low latency networks to implement these specific operations with a huge advantage in terms of cost and time to deploy a new plant. You don't have to wire up everything, and you get the comparable performance by using some specific 5G cells in a plant. And then there's also another piece that Michele talked about earlier, which is the software-defined network, or SDN. And Cisco today is one of the pioneers, but also one of the leaders in this pioneering movement in converting the existing network into software-defined ones, where administrators of a large network or a certain appliances don't have to go one by one into the appliances and configure the network, but they have a software layer, a very secure software layer on top of that network, and they are able to define the virtual nodes on top of the appliances, an overlay network completely managed in a centralized way where you can define policies and take your slice of the network and deploy a certain access management and security solution on it, as well as enforcing security in those networks by using artificial intelligence applied to intrusion prevention and other types of threats that may be typical of networks. So, and we are very focused as Cisco in on 5G, because there's an actual opportunity with it to deliver value to our large customers. I believe that there's an initial motion to serve these large enterprise customers who are pioneering 5G, but quickly after this initial pioneering phase, then there's going to be an absolute mass deployment. That again, infrastructure needs to be built, but the value that the technology promises is worth the effort of investing in defining software solutions that on it, as well as building the equipment that will run these networks. Now,
thanks a lot.
Yeah.
So
I think that we can go and talk a little bit about the our presentation. What do you think, Andrea?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, we can.
Yeah. So what I'm going to show you is a few slides, but I really would like, Jason and I would really like to keep it open and interactive. So we'll try to go over the slide quite quickly and synthetically, and then we would like to stimulate some conversation and a larger question and answer session. I remember that last year we had the privilege to participate to the course and bring our be testimonial for Cisco. We had a lot of questions at the end, so we really liked the energy that the room had. So the virtual room had. So we would like to ride that wave also this year, and hopefully it will be stimulating enough to have a nice interactive session. Now, I'm going to skip the introductions because you did a great job. So what we're going to talk about today is a little bit of Cisco, what we do at a very high level, what we do in the collaboration division, Jason and I, what are the industry trends and challenges that are affecting our work, and also what it means there in supply chain terms. And then we'll Jason will give you some advice on how to join a company like Cisco or any other company with a very strong supply chain. And what are the challenges, what are the roles, and how you could land a job like that at best. Now let's talk about Cisco. Jason, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, I'm having a problem with these slides for some reason. I can't see them on the share, but that's fine. I can.
Because I'll tell you because you joined with the WebEx client.
Okay.
You used the WebEx client to join the.
I think I did. Yeah.
So next time we can use the WebEx for sure.
Sure. And I don't mean to blame Zoom, our big competitor here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, in the meantime, the Jason is bringing up the slides. I'll talk.
I have them.
It. So okay. You have them? Okay,
yeah,
great.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
we're at Cisco at a glance.
Cisco at a glance. Got it. So First of all, I just want to thank you, team, professor, and you know, and the students here today. It's a big honor for me to be here, and it's nice to reflect on my input and into your careers and your development, and also help guide you know, students of this caliber at this school. And I think that your professor has the right idea of looking at the top big companies, and you find a way, because Cisco is such a massive company, and we have so many departments, as I'll show you throughout the deck. And there's such, you know, Dr. Michele spoke about the changes in the network, and I've seen those changes in the 20 plus years that I've been here at Cisco. I actually started in core networking and core routing, and it's interesting that, you know, when he was speaking about the layers, there were actually hardware layers to go with those software pieces, and it was always the hardware that was lagging a little bit, because it was the optical interface wasn't big enough. We needed a bigger pipeline. And then once the optic explosion came, then it was the route processing and the chipsets that were lagging. And once we got it right, and we said, hey, we have a terabit router, and we, you know, we have all these patents and things at Cisco. It's wonderful watching it here from an optical networking perspective here in Ottawa from that acquisition. It was amazing growth, but then this SDN came in, software defined networks, and it threatened Cisco. And we are number one or number two, as Dario mentioned, in every game we play, and we've got a slide on that one too. But we turned that threat via acquisition and business, the right business plays, and putting our $51.9 billion in revenue and the money that we have in the bank is such a good company from a balance sheet, right? Liquidity perspective, that we can move very quickly. So we acquire companies through, you know, when we grow through acquisition, and we turn that threat into a very positive aspect for Cisco. And I think 5G is that's what we're seeing today, is this switch, and this IoT switch. So it's really interesting to bridge that 5G into what I'm talking about today. So anyway, thank you, and I'll be quick. I'll try to be quicker. But if you have any questions, please, by all means, speak up. So the idea that we build bridges between hope and possibility, it's this vast, nebulous world, and it's amazing though. But you think of, okay, what does that mean to me? What does that mean to companies? It's connecting people. And it was really interesting to hear that the CDN is 90% of the traffic. As I watch Game of Thrones and I watch all of this, these shows on TV, and it's like, wow, I'm a participant in the growth of the internet. So these bridges that we talk about is just that. We're building these bridges, but also helping when there's flooding and famine and you know, issues with delivering vaccines around the world. We have the technology and we have the pipeline. We are the plumbers of the internet, and we have the ability to really make some really cool changes and to really help the world. So you know, taking a step back from collaboration and Cisco as a whole, it's really a cool thing to see a very large company that has a positive impact. You think of the corporation is a profit-centered, threat analysis, and you want to seek out and destroy, but you'll see why we're number one in the workplace in the world, because it's not that. It's giving back, it's helping, it's promoting, and this is what we're doing today. Hopefully, is sparking some interest in some students that are joining the workforce. So I'm really pleased to be a part of that. Massive company. We grow by acquisition. That's the mindset. Is you can't always grow, as they say, organically. So we see these companies and we see the charm and the diamond in the rough, and we take them and we say, okay, let's build this. We have the network, but it's the layers that go on top, how we promote that. Massive amount of employees and offices globally. So we can go to the next slide, unless there's any other questions on this one.
I'd like to add just a couple of
Dario.
things, Jason, on bridging between hope and possibility. This is a theme of corporate social responsibility that our MBA students should be very aware of. It is, if you want, it is a mix of opportunism, from my perspective, because it's an investment that today most of the companies must do, and also genuine dedication to communities. It's a mix of those. We took the opportunity of the strength to actually make an impact not only in networks but also in people's lives, and that's the whole mission of Cisco today. Building bridges between hope and possibility. How does that instantiate in real life? Imagine you have a underserved, in terms of infrastructure, a village somewhere in Africa. You need to connect these people to make for them, to create opportunity for them to start selling things, to create an international business, to bring, if you want, wealth to a disconnected piece of the world. So Cisco's charity, if you want, investments are all, many of them, most of them are centered around that concept, to create opportunity and bring hope to people by connecting these communities and make sure that we drive development through technologies for people who haven't been as lucky as us. This is a very big, very strong motivation behind Cisco, and a lot of rewards also for people are tailored around that. Every year we prize employees who've been, distinguishing themselves in delivering this mission.
Yes, education, health, care is such a thing that we take for granted. It's amazing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's move to the next one.
Sure.
Jason, tell us how to become #1.
Well, I run a golf tournament. I used to run a golf tournament every year for 15, 17 years until the shutdown. But every dollar that I raise is matched by Cisco. It's like remarkable. It's amazing. So they have a foundation and they give back, and they truly give back. It's a positive impact in local food banks, and we helped the laser lab at University of Carleton here in Ottawa, and they were trying to find cellular level changes in a person's body. So you could have a blood test at your doctor, and within hours you can find out if you have like leukemia. So some cool things and some neat partnerships, right? That start with giving, but they end with positive impact and even growth in business. So as Dario mentioned, there is some selfishness in giving back, right? Because you're like, oh, that's very interesting, but you follow your passion on that. The best workplace. Sorry, Dario, did you have something to add?
Oh, just homelessness is just one of the things that,
Yeah.
that one of the themes, the social themes. Recently, there was the Black Lives Matter movement that came out very strongly because of this despicable events that happened in society, and our executives immediately, CEO and top reports immediately moved towards the direction of supporting these minorities, and gave right off the bat $50 million to Black Lives Matter, and invited all the bosses. They called all hands meetings on the Cisco TV with all the global workforce, with bringing these witnesses, giving their speeches and shape people's minds. So that is a big part of why Cisco is #1 best workplace. People feel safe being there, although belonging to minorities. They feel very safe being there, and safe to speak up or to be themselves, which is something that is extremely rare, especially for a large company like that. And all the executive communication towards the employees, the CEO's email, 95% of them are about corporate social responsibility, inclusions, what's going on in the real world, and how we can react or make a difference as Cisco people. Now,
Yeah.
I'm going to switch gear. Let's talk a little bit about business now, and go to the talk about our global reach.
Okay, for sure. You can see that we have most of our business in the Americas, and year by year it changes. Asia Pacific, EMEA trends, but you get an idea, right, that we have this global reach. A lot of the new products that we'll talk about often are released in North America, and it's a trial market. In collaboration, we often take some gambles because we're sitting on the back of this massive market that we created, a $6 billion business of hardware infrastructure and voice control in collaboration of one of the many businesses that we have. So we'll often try in the US market, and if it takes off, and I think more, in Europe first. So if we can have Europe and those partners there, it's a good testing ground for some of these new products, and we have one in mind that we want to show you.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about our businesses.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we do have infrastructure. As I told you, 75% of the internet goes through Cisco devices. We are a security company. We call ourselves a security company, and we are. Our stuff is extremely secure from the hardware to the software. And the good thing about Cisco is we own the full stack. We're very vertically integrated with a lot of our businesses, so we can claim that our hardware and software are symbiotic. We don't have a lot of potential holes or interfaces that may generate potential threats. We also have a business around cloud and emerging technologies that we constantly incubate. Cisco has been traditionally selling appliances and software licenses. In the recent years, there has been a pivot towards software as a service, and today roughly 70% of the overall revenues of Cisco come from software as a service business, from all as a service business. Sometimes, we start seeing also hardware sold as a service, although we're still very far from hitting our target. But this is a very significant change that is happening. And then there's services. Services is our support customer experience division. It's roughly a $12 billion business. All the large enterprises that we serve, they absolutely need services. They need services to install sometimes complex products, infrastructure products, and they need help to operate, to install them, operate them, configure, maintain, etc. And then there's application and collaboration. And this is where Jason and I belong. This is WebEx, the world of WebEx, and all the devices that work with WebEx. We're talking about from, headsets like this one. This is a Cisco headset that we have actually built, also the one that Jason has, two very large immersive telepresence systems. And Cisco, you might remember, was one of the pioneers in the immersive telepresence with some acquisition of startups at the time, Tenberg. Now, a little bit of financial highlights here. There always, in the recent years, we always had a positive revenue trend. Although, of course, in 2020 has been a very peculiar year for everybody in the industry, and Cisco specifically not being completely software business, but having that serve offices and meeting rooms, and collaboration is a very, very evident business of that kind. We saw an inflection a little bit. Of course, we went back to the 2018 revenue levels. Couldn't be otherwise. We sell a lot of equipment for offices. Offices were closed, and our customers procrastinated the decision to buy more. Now, in terms of revenues, infrastructure and platform, of course, determine the largest amount. We also have applications, but as you see, service is more than a quarter of the overall revenues. It's a big organization, and there's a ton of people there. Then, we're not going to be talking about anything else much, but maybe worth mentioning the margins. Despite the crisis, they went up. Cisco's continuously trying to oil the machine and make sure that we cut costs and make the margins work.
I'm always threatened about that because that's how I get paid. I'm not the top line guy, I'm the bottom guy. So if the margins aren't there, I'm out.
Yeah, for those who don't know, because I learned that pretty late in my career, top line is, when you see an income statement, the top line is the revenues, sales, and then the bottom line is, the profit. So, but he's a bottom line guy because Jason is the kind of guy you go to and say, hey, we're paying these parts too much. Our bill of material for our devices is too high. So please help us lower it. And, if you produce X for a product, you know that probably very well already. You produce X, you sell it at X plus something. If you're able to lower the production cost of X to X minus 3, that minus 3 is direct profit that you're adding. So there's a constant attention to both sales, but when we're building products, physical products, of course we want to make sure that the bill of material, so all the material that you buy to produce a product plus transformation cost, how much you need from how much it costs for transforming these raw materials into the final product. We want to make sure that that cost is minimized and also diminishes over time with scale.
Yeah.
Now, Cisco, as Jason was saying earlier, it's number 1 or number 2 in every market that plays into. If we start investing in a market and we see that there's not enough traction or there's not a chance to become number 1 or number 2 for some reason, there may be barriers or it may be a not perfect fit with our technology skill sets, we drop that. We don't pursue it anymore. We go and make the decision to close certain businesses because they're not in our DNA, or we won't be able to get to number 1 or number 2.
And we rarely miss targets. We might reset the target early on and make it, and the outlook may be a little bit different, but we're execution people. We when we say we're going to do something, we really do it. We're very driven in that way, and it shows, I think, in the operating margin, even though the revenue's down, and in the leadership here.
Great.
And this is what I've learned, right? This is not like, oh, I'm saying, oh, the best place and all this stuff. It's like you learn it from the years of watching it happen, and you realize, okay, wow, this is important. And I'll talk to the metrics and some of the functions in supply chain that drive that bottom line.
Yeah. So let's move a little bit into the collaboration division and start trying to zoom in so that you guys will have an idea of what we do and what we're going to talk about in terms of supply chain today. This is our portfolio, right? The collaboration portfolio has a wide variety of things in it. We have contact center solutions. We have the unified communication and calling, which means the unified communication is, a paradigm. It is a way to say that there are solutions that allows you to communicate in all the possible channels through a specific server if you want. In this case, Cisco is leader in both on-premises unified communication and cloud unified communication. So Cisco's market share for call control on premises. Now, if you're a large organization, you still buy a server, you deploy it locally in your intranet, and that is going to be your phone servers that manages your voice over IP phone, your VoIP phones. That is, Cisco has over 85% of market share in that space in all the large Fortune 500, Fortune 1000 companies. 100% of them, or nearly 100%, have those solutions. And then we also are leader in cloud calling. There is a company that we acquired a few years back. I believe it was 2017 or 2018. That was called Broadsoft. Broadsoft was the leader in cloud calling, which means, and it has solution that you usually gave to telecom companies. And we have our friends in Telecom Italia. I don't remember if Telecom Italia uses that technology or uses somebody else, but the idea is a company like Telecom Italia would get the Broadsoft technology and they would resell it. They would set up their servers to that technology and use that infrastructure as the way they provide business calling over IP to their customers. So Broadsoft is not very famous to consumers, but it was actually the number one cloud infrastructure company for business to business calling, especially for smaller companies. Now Cisco acquired them, and it's part of our portfolio, and now we keep reselling it. But it's also WebEx calling. It's the ability to call via WebEx. We have a subscription specifically for companies, and they can use that. Then we have room devices, and Cisco is also leader in high-end room devices. We have a series of sound bars with intelligent cameras that use artificial intelligence to recognize people, to count people in a room. We have sensors stuffed in the devices. We have very, high-end 4K real time with auto framing, and automatically, this virtual directors that highlight the right people in the room and zoom in when they're talking, all those nice capabilities. Then there's also something called cognitive collaboration, and cognitive collaboration is the WebEx assistant and everything that is powered by voice AI. Not only voice AI, sorry, also AI in general. It's understanding the user context, understanding what the user is doing, what information they have available, what their schedule looks like, and then being able to, you know, through AI, understand the how to, you know, promote certain specific workflows, do, you know, recommendations to the users, etc., to optimize the way people work, increase their productivity. Then we have conferencing, that's WebEx. You know, we are on Zoom. It's very similar to Zoom, put it that way, but much better and more secure. Then, then we have phones, and this is, you know, we have several type of phones. We have phones for the regular phones that you get on a desk. You have the phones that we give to lobby ambassadors and people who have a lot of shortcuts, a lot of buttons that can be customized for routing calls. We have specific phones, you know, smartphones like ruggedized phones that we use for frontline workers. Now we have a certain number of solutions that are designed for either retail or those tablets or phones that the retailers have for you know, when you go into a retail shop, or in oil and gas, a worker has on a specific manufacturing plant and uses that. You know, it's ruggedized, it withstands very high temperature, is waterproof, and offers specific applications for those vertical markets. We have then conference phones that, you know, Cisco's been in the conference phone business since forever. And we have many kind of phones, including WebEx phones, just the latest ones that we have been releasing. Those are smart, integrating with WebEx, provide sometimes ability to turn on voice AI in your meeting room. And then we have a bunch of peripherals. In this moment, I'm talking to you through the top left device, the prototype of the top left device in the peripheral section. It's the new WebEx camera. We have the headsets. You see Jason's headsets in, you know, central column. I'm using the Cisco 730 headset, which won the Red Dot Award in 2020. And we designed this in San Jose. We built this in-house. And then we also have a new concept for devices for desks that implement what is called hot desking or hoteling. You know, there's a trend right now whereby companies don't assign desks to people anymore, but people go to the office, and whenever there's a desk available for them, they can land on that desk, and the desk understands their presence. They can book that desk, and it personalizes for them. That we have some devices that we are building for implementing a smooth experience that are mobile first. You know, you see on the lower left corner this device here. You may go there and dock your phone that charges wirelessly, and while you dock your phone, it understands your identity and adapts your workspace for you. You start seeing your family pictures on the screen on the device automatically, you know, for the time you're spending in the desk, and, you know, personalizes the experience for you everywhere. And that's a big workplace transformation trend. There was before the pandemic, you know, less assigned seat, more dynamic working, where people working from everywhere through mobile devices, and not being tied to specific spaces. Now, with the COVID pandemic, that effect has been exacerbated. And now you see, you know, people working from home, working at the office. When they go to the office, they don't have an assigned seat. They removed my assigned seat. I had my desk. Now, you know, when I go back to the office, I will have to. There's going to be a neighborhood for my managers. For, you know, I report to a senior director. My senior director will have a neighborhood of desks, and I will go there and pick a desk free for the day, the few days a week that I'll be at the office. So this change, the COVID pandemic has accelerated this change. It was already happening, but it got accelerated very much. And we'll talk more about the how. But today, from the supply chain perspective, we're focusing on phones and peripherals. And I want to accelerate a little bit so that we get to
Q&A.
This is myself and Jason. I'm if you want, I'm in collaboration, the WebEx devices group, and Jason is on the supply chain organization. Supply chain is horizontal across all the divisions, while collaboration, if you want, is a in a matrix organization, is a vertical function. Now, what I was talking to you about, this is a new knowledge worker. Knowledge worker before used to move across offices. Today, works from home 2 or 3 days a week, and will keep doing that. There are more meetings, sometimes so many meetings that there's a term called meeting fatigue. The people that are double, triple booked, sometimes quadruple booked at the same time slot. And it happened to me, sometimes 4 meetings at the same slot, especially around 9 a.m. Pacific. They use more software, they use less devices, they use the smartphone, and they use headsets. And the headsets have to be designed to avoid, that your crying kid gets into the uplink and people hear it in a meeting. And so all these changes that were already happening, now they got really accelerated. And that has a big, big impact on our, income statement, because we have a period where there's more demand of a certain device, but we don't have devices available for selling yet, because we either have to ramp up production or we are designing them. And supply chain needs to really adapt very fast to the situation. Now, if we go into the relevant trends and their impact, let me give you a number that is very, very, very significant. In 2020, but before 2020, before the pandemic, we had about 3.7% of the total global workforce working from home in a stable way. With the pandemic, it grew 10 times. So 37% of the global workforce worked from home. And when they're going to go back home, more than 20% of them will not have an assigned desk anymore. The offices they're going to remove buildings. Offices will have open spaces, unassigned desks. You go to the office, you're going to be assigned to a specific group of desks that you can pick from. And then you go there, you sit on one of these desks and work from that for as long as you stay at the office. This is applicable to many roles, not all of them. If you're an engineer who needs a workstation and specific hardware, then you will have your own assigned desk. But all the managers, all the salespeople, business development, human resources, or anybody else, or a lawyer, a corporate lawyer who does not need specific equipment to work, they will bring their laptop, land, open it, and collaborate.
Yeah, and I think some of the impact, let me talk to some of the impact of that in the supply chain.
Please.
Because what happened is in Taiwan, and there's many foundries around the world, and Taiwan is one of the critical ones, and in mainland China, where they put these chips together and the system on a chip, right, that drives all the computers and computing devices. They had to send people home. They shut down. They shuttered the factories because they didn't see the demand at the same time, and they were looking at this change in the workforce and all this deployment, massive deployment in buildings. And that caused a massive ripple effect in the supply chain. And now you see that there's automobile shortages at Ford, and SoC shortages and supply chain where the allocation and hoarding of devices and lead times completely expanded. So now we're, if we take just an example, if I move my lead time from 14 days to 21 days, all of my distributors will buy more automatically because they need to protect their lead time attainment to their customers. So they need more inventory, right? The customer satisfaction is directly correlated, right, to inventory level. So if you want high customer satisfaction like Amazon, and you're going to have a delivery in 4 hours in the Bay Area, or 2 hours, I think, in some cases, then you need to have that inventory locally, and it has to be available for many people in that market, depending on, of course, on which product you're selling. In other cases, I'm having a large deployment and it's going to take months and months, and the lead time doesn't have to be that long, so I don't need the inventory. I can actually send an order to the factory. They can start building it, and by the time they're completed building it, I'm ready to receive it. So it could be months and months. But with this change into this hybrid workplace and working from home, people need things much quicker. And so the demand increased, the ripple effect from the SOCs happened, and it was like this perfect storm that we're still trying to recover from. You might have seen Chuck, our CEO, in the BBC News recently. He just said we're not going to be recovered for another 6 months, which is like 2 quarters, and we just made our numbers this quarter. So you imagine we're going into Q4, typically a very strong sales quarter without inventory, and then it's going to last into Q1. And these are big reporting times for Cisco. So supply chain organization takes the brunt of that and has to adapt and shift to accommodate that.
But in recent years, Jason, we had that adaptation happening already, right? With faster development cycles and with all these new wearables that we started building.
Absolutely.
From phones to a wide variety of new devices in adjacent product categories.
Yes.
You want to
sure.
tell us a little bit about that?
So the one headset that Dario mentioned, this one here in particular, that we designed internally, it took a long time. We wanted the growth strategy internal for this particular device, and now with this device, it was built in probably 1/3 of the time, and the volume was probably 10x the volume of this device. This device being much more expensive with the noise cancellation and all the kind of bells and whistles and security, but still, it's now the ability to find the right partner and develop the business strategy with that partner and align on the payment terms and all the contractual agreements and the licensing agreements and the supply chain inventory at the right place at the right time. So where the 700 series took, let's say, 1.5 years, 2 years to really ramp and at time to quality and volume, we have to do that in 6 months now, because the consumer mind shifts 6 to 8 months, and the SOCs are now changing every 6 to 8 to 12 months, and it's a massive impact on the supply chain. So it pushes everything downstream to software is becoming critical, and we're having to outsource software just for our core teams. And we're you look at a company like Zoom that came out of nowhere. They had very minimal software, and everything is a commodity now, right? So they just plugged commodity pieces together and they have a product, and they didn't expect it to sell that much. But and now we're saying, hey, we have the security and we have all of these other devices that work with that secure development, but the consumer's like, I don't care, I want the price and I want it now. So we have to have these different methodologies of coming to market. And I think the new product categories that we mentioned earlier as well, the models of consumption are changing. it's not just software as a service, it's hardware as a service. Like you buy an iPhone and you say, okay, it's free, but you have to pay $60 a month or whatever, you know, $100 a month, whatever. It's not free, nothing's free. So you're going to pay for it. And we actually make, I think it's what, if we move a customer from on-prem phone to a cloud, I think it's 7x the revenue with the same device, hardware. But there's certain financial limitations of selling worldwide hardware as a service. So we're doing a pilot in North America, and certain companies are good at that, and certain companies, you know, they have it down. But you can't always address every market in every way. So selling through Amazon is a new way, Amazon for Business. And our route to market is changing as well. We're actually deploying a much larger but more nimble sales force of agency sales. And they will be closer, much closer to very small businesses and even consumer side. So the margin pressure for that type of agency sales versus, you can imagine selling to you know, Telecom Italy, like it's a big deal. Like it takes months and months of planning and understanding what the network looks like and what the infrastructure is needed to upgrade, or whether you're going to go cloud or maybe a hybrid of both because you've got people. But a consumer says, oh, yeah, I'll buy it. Okay, when is it available? So we have to be very close to those markets and sell in a much different way, which means the supply chain has to evolve and be very nimble and agile to adopt to that. I think that covers pretty much this slide, Dario. What do you think?
Absolutely. Why don't you get a little bit deeper into the supply chain? Sure.
So it's global. We know what global means. It's very complex. Imagine, it's nothing. I think Amazon probably is much larger than this, but 385,000 items shipped daily. That's massive. Managing 500 active suppliers that transform our products or transform the components, and sub-component vendors like the foundries and the raw material that goes into those printed circuit boards, like glass and ceramics and metallurgy that comes into that, and also the number of component suppliers and the contracts with each one of these, and the scorecards, and so we have this massive organization, and I'll show you in the next couple of slides of what that looks like and how we manage this. But it's you know, when you're a big company, you have to have a lot of governance and a lot of vice presidents and directors that manage all of the people like me that do the work and achieve these goals. So
okay, Jason, I switched the slide. I went to the end-to-end supply chain.
Oh, end-to-end. Okay, sorry. Yeah, that's good.
No, I just did that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me know, eh?
Okay.
Nothing really new here. The real issue is time. How can you innovate and deliver in a much faster time? So it's just the technology has to be there. It's maybe more commoditized. You're not making as much. You source it in a much quicker way, and the planning cycle time is much quicker, and it has to be much more agile. So I was talking about the supply chain leadership, and we can switch to the next slide. Imagine 38,000 SKUs or 385,000 products shipped, components shipped every day out of Cisco warehouses around the world or distribution sites around the world. There's a vice president of global planning, and Joe is super intelligent. He gets it about how to plan for this, how much inventory is at the location. It's a new product. How are we going to plan a ramp when we've never had anything like this shipped in before? And what Edwin and Susan and Jeff Purnell do is they create metrics, and they put IoT devices in all of these places, and we have this massive amount of now information. So it becomes, how do you manage that information and what's relevant? So we're turning into this cognitive sensing supply chain to react to certain things, but be a lot more engaged with this with the model, the previous model of plan, source, make, deliver, the innovation drives, and the software and the IoT drives, and the 5G drives the knowledge and the use of all these metrics and all of the information that's coming to us. So this vice president team has the financial goals and the money that they can spend in their teams to bring the talent to bear. And if we go to the next one about the supply chain operations and the different areas that we see, I'm in product ops under David Ashley, so I'm executing a new product introduction and sustaining the supply chain. Joe is responsible again for, you have global planning, you've got supplier management, logistics, materials and fulfillment. Just imagine supply chain transformation. Okay, what does that mean? Well, how much does it cost? How long does it take? How do you get, the mode shift from air to ocean was a massive shift, but we realized that our ocean freight was taking, what was it, it was maybe not 14 weeks, but let's say 10 to 12 weeks to get someplace. So it was very cheap to get it there. And we realized we were actually waiting for this entire massive ship with all these containers to be full before we transitioned it. Well, we went to an LTL sea shipment method, and we were paying probably 1/5 of air, but a little bit more than waiting for the big ship to be full. And we brought that down to like maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks on the ocean. That is a massive improvement in customer satisfaction and our lead time attainment. So all of the ideas of metricizing all of the data is very important to Cisco. And on the next slide, you see that some of the technology used, the analytics and the collaborative communication and using mobility and IoT, it's very important to us. The final piece of this is the benefits of this digitization of this market is we're seeing productivity increases across the board because things are getting there faster. We're saving on this massive infrastructure and capital expense because we're moving inventory much quicker. And of course, as a result, it's just a key that the delivery to customers and the commitments that we're making are much improved. A 5 to 10% improvement in delivery commitment is incredible. It's incredible with the amount of products that we ship. Any questions on that? We should. I don't know if we're going to even get to the end of this. I know it's getting late for all you students, and you want to have a drink on a Friday night. But should we slow down a little bit and take some questions, or do you want to wait to the end still?
I don't know.
Are there questions, guys?
Yeah, in case there are some questions, we can open now. Yeah.
Please interrupt. Yeah, because the next few slides I'm going to talk about are one particular product and introducing it and what we're doing from an agile perspective, and switching the new product methodology. But I think we've been speaking so long, it's kind of maybe we take a little bit of a break and look into that. What do you think?
Yes, actually, I have a question. May I?
Oh, fantastic.
Of course.
Please.
Fantastic.
Please.
Yeah, so earlier you mentioned an initiative about reducing the lead time from 10 to 12 weeks down to 4 to 5 weeks, right? Using the ocean mode. Could you please give us more details about that kind of initiative?
Sure. So the idea starts with the customer, and it's how do we get our phone lead times down from, let's say, 21 days to 14 days. And what's necessary is more inventory, right, at the depot. And it comes from the ability to sell the need to sell to customers, because if the IT owner of a company is buying phones, and they're all cloud connected these days on Broadsoft networks, I can buy an Alcatel phone or I can buy a Cisco phone, and if I try to make an order or a quote and it's not available for 3-6 weeks and another one is available, they're going to buy it. So the need is there. It's very clear. So what we did is we realized air freight is very expensive. So if we're going to ship everything by air and it's going to get there next day, and it's not just air though, it goes to air to a depot, and then it's on a truck or a train to another service logistics depot, and then the last mile is probably by truck, or by, it could even be by train, because I know that there's some train yards close to Texas, where we, Houston to Texas, Foxconn depot, where we actually distribute. But there's a lot of analysis that's done by mode, and we just look at the trade-offs. So you say, okay, if we're shipping 100,000 units or 50,000 units quarterly of this particular phone, and it's you do analysis of the weight, dimensions of the phone, and how many skids, and air freight is let's say it's going to be $3 a SKU. It becomes very expensive, or maybe it's $3 per pound for kilo or something. If you put it on ocean, it's a lot less, but it takes a lot longer. So now we have to build up more inventory to have it on the ocean. So we maybe have 2-3 ships going, or 3-4 containers at once going. But it seems like now you have more inventory, more investment in the supply chain, but it's still not getting there faster. So that trade-off is not working. So now you do some analysis, and actually, I think what the logistics team did is they negotiated with some of the freight forwarders in China and in Hong Kong area, where these things are loaded onto the boats, and they found that there's a more optimized method, and that freight business is also changing dramatically. And you may have heard LTL. I mentioned that. LTL is kind of a trucking term, where you don't have to fill up the truck. The truck will go to many different customers. If I'm in, let's say I'm in Toronto and I want to go to Ottawa, it's a 4-hour drive. Well, I'm not going to put one skid on the truck. I'm going to try to fill it up with multiple customers if I'm a trucking company. And by the way, I don't want to drive it home empty, like deadheading. I want to fill it up on the way home so that I maximize my profits. So there's a balance between a full truckload and waiting, or a full shipment on an ocean liner, and the economies of scale that helps you deliver all of those containers. But at the same time, you're investing a lot more in inventory because it takes longer to get there, and you need to minimize that reaction time of the IT professional buying your product. So yeah, there were companies out there that were hungry for this less than a load shipment, and they were willing to invest in more traveling, and maybe they have carbon offsets, because they're on the ocean without being full. But it was very advantageous to do that. So we made some contracts up and we signed some deals, and in the end we saved a lot of money, and it kept the customer very happy. I hope that answered the question. It was kind of a long story.
Yes, thank you. It's a lot of details and very helpful.
Good. Yeah, it's very important to look at all modes of transportation and inventory levels to balance. It's always a balance. So let the data and the cost drive you. And but really, it starts with the customer. You have to understand what the customer needs are.
Thank you, Jason.
Yeah, anytime.
Thanks, Jason.
Okay.
Yeah,
if there's anything else, otherwise I'll spend maybe 5 minutes on this new product introduction little thing. Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay. So Dario, slide 25, I guess, supply chain process. It's very, yeah, it's very waterfall. Do you guys understand waterfall? It's like serialized delivery. I have to do something, and when I'm done, I give it to you, and then you do something. And supply chain is very like that. Add value over through the supply chain. But it's not always the fastest. And at the beginning, you commit to the features and functionality of the product, and at the end, you hope that by the time you're ready to launch, that the customer hasn't changed their mind. And like I said, in some cases, it takes years. If we're developing ASICs, it takes 6-10 years to develop. If we're looking at nano-sized process control over optic modules that plug in for 100 gig, it's very, very scientific intensive and very trial and error. So if Dario has a new phone that he wants and he develops features and he says, okay, this is what we think is going to happen, and I say, hey, it's going to take us a year to do that, he says, oh my God, I don't know, we might have to strip down those features and functionality to get to market quicker. My job is to look at all of these horizontal lines and understand what is important from a delivery perspective, from a manufacturing test strategy, supply chain readiness, all the the costs, the bill of materials and the sourcing strategy, the software side of things, the technical readiness. If I have this phone and I drop it 5 times in mechanical validation testing and it fails, what's going to happen? Do we have to over design, or we have to integrate early some of these testing features? So I consider all of these into a plan from concept to FCS or launch, and then I have to transition that program over to a sustaining manager. So that sustaining manager says, hey, I want you to tell me that it's worldwide compliant, not just North America compliant. I have to know that the quality is there. We have 6 Sigma yields at readiness, and sometimes you just can't achieve both. So it's always this balance. And if you go to the next slide, Dario, the market around us is changing, and Dario mentioned that there's this movement from on-premise and the unified communication manager for your office is located on site, and now it's going to the cloud, and that shrinking bar is going down, and the cloud piece is increasing, and we need to shift products to address that much quicker. And I have to consider, okay, so what's the best method if we want to address a completely different market, like the headset space? Do we do that internally? Do we develop it internally? Do we do product development externally with a partner that already does that? And it's more costly, but we might be able to learn from that. So you have to make these connections, and a lot of the time, what happens is the previous slide shows all of this process and all of these teams and all you have to cut the red tape, if you will. Like there's a lot of governmental, if you understand the red tape concept, you have to cut all of these chains that bind us to deliver. But still, we have to understand the needs of the product and the needs of the customer. So we do it in a different way. We do it in a Scrum way, or a agile methodology, to say, hey, let's not try to deliver everything. Let's focus on what's really important from a quality perspective and a test perspective, to the value to the customer, because maybe it's not important. If they drop it, who cares? If it doesn't cost anything, they just buy another one. It's a consumable device. Or does it have to last for 12 years in the market? So all of these factors come at play. So if we go to the next slide, what we think about is, the needs of the customer are shorter, and they don't necessarily need all of the features and the functionality. So we say, hey, let's test it. Let's get some information back and let the data drive us to the next decision before we try to write a massive list of all of the features that we think is going to happen a year from now. So the only way to be agile is to do a little bit less and try it out with the customer and get that feedback more quickly. So the focus moves to demonstrating working hardware and software, and then slowly adding features. And a lot of the time with these new devices, which is very cool, is that we, and I think Dr. Michele mentioned this, that you download the new version of the software and it works seamlessly with the hardware. And sometimes you have planned obsolescence in that, well, you know, you're only at this level with software. We all have this frustration with the iPhone. Yeah, you know, your software that's it. You know, your hardware will only take you so long, so you have to upgrade your hardware. So moving to that culture also drives the supply chain in a quicker, more agile manner. But what happens is if you stick with the old way of doing things and try to validate everything and take the big thing, you're going to miss the mark. And the idea is to design for change within there. So maybe it's a modular design. Like the phones have a keypad, a screen, a handset, right? Speakers. So those things, maybe we can switch out some SoCs and things and use the same tool. So we get the value out of the tool still, and we're able to change a screen as that commodity changes. So it's just a matter of qualifying new devices on the inside while keeping the outside the same. And then, you know, meeting the need of the customer as they change their needs. So the next slide on the Cisco WebEx Share was an example of how Dario and team have come up with this idea. Like, hey, we have all of these rooms, and this is back before COVID. We have all of these rooms and conference rooms where the companies don't want to purchase the WebEx room devices and these expensive screens. They already have the screens. So we developed this idea, and we had to have a way of integrating with the WebEx software and pair it with the device that we bring to the office. And so we came up with this idea, and it was kind of around before the time that all of these devices that you see today, like Google Chrome and all of this plug-in things were around, and we did it in 6 months. So it was really cool. The first prototype that was customer facing was a Raspberry Pi with software, because we knew that the hardware could get there pretty quick, but it was the software and the integration, the security, and the ultrasonic pairing. Like when you walk into a room, it says, "Hello, Dario, welcome. Would you like to start your meeting?" Oh, yeah, okay, for sure. And then, oh, you want to share? Okay, fine. You know, on any device, on my PC, whatever. So it opened up a new market. We solved something, and we've been building on the software ever since. So it's pretty cool device. And the idea of how we did it is by just delivering in small little pieces and working with software. A lot of the time, hey, the hardware's ready, but where's the software? And now these days it's switched, right? It's just like the software's ready, but where's the hardware? You can't make it fast enough. So we have to change our supply chain. We have to do local prototyping. And I think the teams need to be much smaller. But if the teams are smaller, you have to be much more skilled, because you have to understand all of the aspects of the supply chain. So they took me, and they took an engineer, electrical, mechanical, a test guy, a software people, and then we just brought a quick agile team together, and we developed it very quickly. And of course, always based on the customer. We focus on the customer. That's the number one thing. And then, so, measuring success of this was it fun? Did we do something different and new? Was it novel? Did we achieve our 6-month velocity? And we did it by using consumer grade products, components, things that we know are going to change, but we know that product is not going to last in the market forever. So that's fine. It's planned obsolescence as well. So we were able to do some things and make some change in the BU and show and demonstrate to other businesses around Cisco that it can be done. But we have to take the feature set down a little bit and be more agile with a small team that can make very fast decisions, while empowering the people like Dario to say, hey, do you want this, or do you want it now, or do you want it later with all these features? Okay, fine, all right, let's do it. So it was fun. It's good collaboration. Agile can be done wrong. It's probably the number one threat to business if doing Agile wrong. People say it's twice the work in half the time, but it's twice the value in half the time. But the first thing that a general manager said was, oh, you can do 8.5 the time. That's what he heard. This was our GM at the time. So they did not change their mentality. So it's tough for me to change. I know all of this Agile business, and I've taken all the Scrum classes, and I spoke at worldwide conferences, but that GM doesn't understand what we're talking about. So they say, yeah, just keep doing it. We're going to build even more, and you're going to do it half the time. No, well, that's not the case. And really, what that turns into is, a stack of papers and a technical document requirements that gets handed off to engineering, that gets handed down to manufacturing. And as soon as you hear the word handoff or pass down, then you failed. And that's what we call Agile fall or waterfall with an Agile mentality. And also, you can't really have a deadline with this. You have to find out what the customer needs and shift. It may never end because the customer sentiment is always changing. So you have to understand, what can we deliver now and make money on while the customer sentiment is changing? And that is a very tough thing at Cisco to do, because our product development lifecycle, or our product lifecycle is 7 to 12 years. Like these phones that we've been developing, if you go to an airport, maybe in the next 6 to 12 months, you'll be in an airport, you'll notice that those Cisco phones are the legacy phones, but they still work. They haven't changed, and it's still on-prem. So pushing engineers to do something different in the same time frame without recommitting that change in a new time frame, they're just going to take shortcuts, and then the quality is going to kill you. So that's the pitfall of Agile, and not understanding these principles are very important. So I find, and what I'm pushing as a new product program manager back up into engineering and in the BU and the GM level is, no problem, we can do that for you, but we're going to recommit the cost of goods sold. We're going to recommit the time frame that we can deliver that. And as the scope changes, this is a sprint from concept commit or execution commit to FCS. So if you think that those things are going to change, you shouldn't change within a sprint. So if you think that that's a sprint and then that's it, we have to fix it. Or what you do is you can change it, but this end date has to also change. And they're getting their heads around it a little bit. They're trying to realize that it's a feature set that has to reduce. So yeah, that's that. And I guess I have a couple, 1 or 2 slides on, when you enter the workforce. On slide 34 here, Dario, if you're catching up with me, or if you're way ahead of me.
Yeah, I'm here. Program manager role at Cisco.
Okay, good. So it's an evolution. I started as a buyer. I was expediting parts and helping get parts for the program, for the team, and for the EMS partners. It's good to have a skill set or have a view of the end-to-end supply chain before you say, hey, I'm going to be a PM. Because a PM I find is a jack of all trades, skilled in one. But what I've found is also, and I've seen this in Cisco too, is my weakness is now going to be my biggest piece of what I improve on, and then that's going to be my biggest strength in the future. So turning these things around and understanding and being curious about different aspects of the supply chain and technical ability, and you get to assess yourself and PM your career development. Like it's I have all of these things I want to do. Well, PMing it just says, okay, this is really important to me. I'm going to do that first, and it's easy to implement. So there's an agile mentality there. So you learn a little bit of that, and then you prioritize and get it done, and then you become stronger and more valuable to the organization. But I find, Dario and I had some really fun times in San Jose and developing these products and making decisions and with that small team. So the relationship skills in your career are going to be very important to you. And a lot of the time, if you're developing something with a group of people that you haven't had too much time with, it's always important to develop a personal relationship with those people. And some people are not comfortable with doing that, but a personal relationship, it really goes a long way. So if that's part of something that you're not good at, then you can take a Dale Carnegie course or read a book on how to win friends and influence people or whatever, whatever it takes. Stephen Covey kind of stuff is sharpen the saw. Read some books, take some classes, understand what your weaknesses are, and build those relationships with those people and build your skill set, because that's really, really, really important in getting along and moving forward. I found through my career, if we go to that last slide, Dario, on 35, I'm always thinking bold. I think outside of what I can do today. And I'm very passionate. It's drumming and music and golf are my passion, but I'm very passionate about this job and what, the outcomes. So always be passionate, but I think also have some fun with the people around you, because it's like your family. It's an extended family. You spend so much time with these people. So those are my three top things I would give to you entering the workforce. That was more than 5 minutes. Go ahead, Dario. Yes.
Yeah, no, I think I'm going to go back because there's one thought I have in mind that I think it's worth sharing with the audience, which is the whole tension between Agile and the rest of the organization is extremely impactful and can really take a lot of time and sometimes a toll at the end result of your product. If you think about the way companies are organized nowadays, you have a general manager, a GM, that has a budget. The way that general manager is evaluated, his performance is evaluated, is on top and bottom line. So revenues and profit of the business unit. Now, the way the management accounting is set up and those objectives are set up in traditional organizations is very waterfall. I give you this budget to build this product. We already know what product is to be built at the beginning.
Fixed scope.
And now go fix scope, now build it, and as fast as possible, sell it. And now get your customers to buy large amount of those products and do gain economies of scale as soon as possible. But this is an analogous situation of just to draw an analogy with supply chain, with what happened in Toyota many years ago when they started competing with US manufacturers and all this idea of creating small batches end to end to optimize the process and gain customer feedback as early as possible so that they could do it just in time for customers with customization specifically geographically and still at a cost, work on the process to then lower your cost and compete with large economies of scale of giant competitors. If you want, it's similar like that. In this case, the giant is your organization that works waterfall, that is budget and end result. And then within that framework, you are creating a little island of joy where you say, let's apply a lean process to product development. And so you start with creating some assumptions. This product is going to do A, B, C. Now, do customer want it? Does it really going to do A? Easy. Will customer deploy it in the scenarios that we have envisioned? and start building this prototype. And that Raspberry Pi, you put it in front of customers and gain that early feedback. And you have, you measure, you understand that there's a validated learning out of it. And now you're able to make your next step. The problem is if you follow this iterative process, you don't get to a finish line, because the amount of work you have to do, the amount of learning you have to do to get to the deadline is not fixed. So it depends on how much you can achieve, how lucky you are at the beginning of making your assumptions, and how fast you are learning along the process, that you're going to be able to hit or not the deadline with enough quality. But that's, you know, it might have taken 3 months more, and you might have discovered something that made you pivot your strategy completely and build the next breakthrough. But maybe you haven't gotten time to get there because because the GM killed your product because it's wasting too much money and did not generate revenues on time. Maybe you were on the verge of creating the breakthrough that will change the industry in the next 10 years. There's always this dichotomy between the old way of thinking and the lean processes applied to large organizations. And Cisco, unfortunately, is a legacy large organization that understands the need for doing certain things in certain pockets, but then, you get to, in the agile process, you get to a point where there were so many corporate processes you had to do and people you had to involve that sometimes the chances you're going to be successful are low because you haven't aligned the stars at the very beginning. You haven't been talking to many other business units, and you caught another general manager by surprise. And it's really hard, especially from a product management perspective, to get a product like that to market in a traditional organization. And it requires a lot of stakeholder management, a lot of talking, and then small batches. The small batches is key. Iterating fast on the hardware side. You do a design concept, 3D printed first, and then you have a PCB board with a bunch of hardware, extra hardware that maybe you will not use or cut them. And then you take this PCB that you've made quick and dirty, you put it in a shell, 3D printed, and you put some software in it, you validate some core use cases, and it doesn't work, you change, you readapt. And this is a very fruitful way of learning and will eventually get you to build the right product that people will buy, no brainer. The problem is, will you have time? Will you have budget to get there? So you need to really balance these two things. The budget they give you up front might not be sufficient. However, if you do it the classic way, you do market research, you come up with a product concept, you do it waterfall. In the end, not adjusting your aim while you are iterating, but deciding now and shipping in 18 months. Customers may have in this very fast world where technologies evolve very fast, product change, customer needs change. You might get to market with an obsolete product that doesn't sell. It could sell at the beginning when you first conceived it. Now, 18 months later, it won't sell. So this continuous feedback loop, adaptation, and evolution of your product through small batches and validated learnings is extremely critical. And companies that are being successful and will be successful will be the large companies that will embrace that at a large scale. But it needs all the top management understands the principle, buys into it, really believes into it to make that happen in a smooth way. Otherwise, Jason and I will continuously, fight hard to make that happen.
Yeah, and Dario, it may be, these iterative things, you have to think about manufacturability and scale when you're delivering these little pieces. Because if you don't, then you get to market with the subpar product that's super expensive. So if I can, it's like doing both, right? You want to be able to innovate, but you also want to be able to build enough to ship around the world if it does sell, according to the customer needs at the time. If you think it's going to really sell, you better have your yields, your product yields, and your design stable, and you have to be able to pass all of these validation tests throughout the way. So testing and design for manufacturability, design for refurbishment, design for green is very important up front. So it's not just a demonstration, it's also a validation of the end result. We also we have to think about the end game, and engineering has to think about the end game when they're strategizing on how to put this together and demonstrate to the thing. It's very difficult. It really is. It takes a lot of effort and a lot of cost. And to Dario's point, financial people don't always like that, because there's no end date. There's just spend and validate. But I think that's the most successful way to do things in a new market, right? Captive market, different thing.
Yeah, absolutely. We're talking
Something
about
different.
creating market or serving existing market with completely new categories of products. That's what we do. We are kind of in the innovation branch. We're not building phones. Jason and I build things that are innovative breakthrough, not iteratively.
Correct. Yeah.
So, questions. I think we'd like to talk so much, Jason.
I'm sorry, I was going so fast too.
But it's so fun.
Absolutely, it's the time for the questions.
Can I ask you just one quick question about the human resources? So you say about the increase the demand, increase the production, but I was wondering, and also it was very interesting about the new way of thinking desk. But how about the human relation, in a sense? If there is a cutting cost, and how about the new infrastructure or new institution buildings about Cisco? Do you think that, I don't know, there is less space, but at the same time, there is the possibility to go in the office together with your team, or I don't know. Thank you.
Yeah, that is a very good point, Arianna. It is absolutely a drawback of this, of being working from home. In fact, what is called meeting fatigue, which is all these meetings that you have, many times are one-to-one meetings you're having with people you need to catch up with. A lot of the magic in a large organizations happens at the coffee machine. Everybody went to the coffee machine sometimes and they met somebody there, they started talking, they discovered something that changed their business or solved their problem. That magic is not available anymore by working exclusively from home. So creating neighborhoods and allowing people to go there and sitting maybe every time close to somebody else, it's an opportunity from that perspective, but it does not solve the problem. The fact is the real estate cost, facility management cost in a large organization is the second largest cost after salaries. what the thing that costs the most in an organization is paying wages and compensation for people. And then the second largest cost is where to put these people to work. If you are able to, with this new paradigm, companies can save 30 to 40% of the overall real estate cost, which is a huge amount of money. So the incentive to move to this new type of business is absolutely there from the financial perspective. But in my opinion, the tools that we have at our disposal and the technologies still don't fill the gap with the missed human interactions that we can't benefit from anymore. So on the one hand, yeah, there's still a big problem there, and I'm with you. On the other hand, I'm really thinking about the artificial intelligence in orchestrating interactions, workflows, and proposing the right interaction at the right time with the right people being what will make the difference. Will it fill the gap completely? I don't know. It's going to get better and better. People will get back to the office maybe for 3-4 days a week, 2 days a week. But then, there must be a better way to work. There must be a better way to interact and keep relationships active online. And the way our traditional way of working through calendar slots is not applicable anymore. It will fail. If you divide your day in chunks, your productivity is limited by these chunks. There has to be a better way to, work in a more dynamic way to remove a lot of the clutter you have in your calendar and interact in a different way. Well, I believe we'll get there through artificial intelligence, software, cognitive computing associated, applied to human relationship workflows. How long it will take, I don't know, but I'm sure we will start seeing something pretty soon from that perspective. Because with this work from home trend, a lot of companies, when in crisis, it was a call to action for a lot of large organizations to rethink the way they are serving workers. And we will see the result of those investments during the pandemic sooner or later.
Thank you.
I'd like to add my perspective, because I've been working from home for 15 years, and and I do quite fine. It's you can't make decisions in a large group. It's very difficult. So what I do is more political, and it seems like the wrong thing to say as a political advocate or something like this, like building consensus that way. But I talk with people in short bursts. What's your feeling on this? What do you think of this? It's like a 1-minute manager concept. And I go to another person, hey, what do you think of this? Okay, what, and you get to feel like, okay, now I have all the constraints in front of me. Now I can stop and shut things off and think, how am I going to solve this constraint? Because this person wants it quicker, this person wants it cheaper, whatever. And I find that if I'm alone and it's quiet, I can get more done thinking wise to solve problems. And then what I do is I bring the people together and I say, hey, this is what I thought about. And it's just the last few percent that has to be solved. And they feel like, oh yeah, you were thinking about my perspective. And as long as you're open, it takes a specific type of person. Not everybody can do that. But if there are leaders that can do what I'm doing, and that concept of understanding and then evangelizing the solution with everyone's needs and building that collaboration, you can do it actually quite efficiently in multiple time zones and get things done quite quickly if you get that buy-in from those people. So it's a different way of leading and managing.
Yeah, it's true. But at the same time, I think that, I mean, you have the possibility you had in past, the possibility to learn how to be a manager, in a sense that in order to organize, for instance, if I have a role, I mean, I'm in university, and then the easiest, I could say, example is with this team that we never meet, we never know each other, and I never meet the professor. So it was a challenge, and it is a challenge, especially at the beginning. So in one end, I completely agree with you in a sense that if I'm at home, I can relax, I have my time, but at the same time, in some moment of difficulties, it's quite, I mean, more difficult instead of to be in front of them in the university or to solve something together. So yeah, I completely agree also with you. But
it's sad.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
Yeah, in a learning experience, man, that is really sad. And I think the best way to learn is immerse yourself and be with people and talk and share feelings and things all at once. And it's to get things done one way, no problem. But to learn that's tough. I feel for you, and it's a sad situation. So that's it's tough. It's tough. Good luck.
Yeah.
My kids are going through the same thing right now, and I can feel it. They're not happy. You know, they can't.
Yeah.
They're on a laptop, and everyone's virtual. They don't know anybody, and they go out. They don't play. They can't play with their friends in a class, and they can't talk about the teacher. Whatever. It's not fun. So I hope that the world changes in that way for you, because that's absolutely a necessary part of learning.
Yeah, we're not there yet. The technologies can't replace it yet.
Yeah.
Maybe one day they will. We need to be open to that possibility. But at the moment, the leadership, establishing leadership has changed. The rules of the games have changed, and you have to be able to adapt and create the right tools. We're still not there yet. For me, it's been a big impact. A lot of my leadership comes from being with people and establish trustworthy relationships. People see me, recognize me. No, you guys don't know it, but I'm actually 2.7 meters tall. So I get everybody remembers me, but so that there's been a big shock for me. It's very hard to establish. I changed also role very recently internally, and establishing leadership with the others would have been a breeze at the office. Here in a virtual environment, I don't have the chances to do that. If not, no, you have to. With a limited, I can do it with a limited scope. My immediate team, you can jump on one-on-one calls with them, and it's hard to do it on a larger scale.
Video is really important though, because a lot of communication is nonverbal. So that's key. I think there's some foundation there, but yeah, nothing like when I hug Dario, his belly button is in my face. He's so tall, right. I'm so short, but that's it. There's hugs I miss. It's true.
Oh, my friend.
It's true. It's true. I miss flying and being in a sunny place when it's cold in Canada.
Any other questions?
That was a good one.
So open for questions.
Actually, I have one, maybe more for Jason, for what we mentioned before about supply chain. Particularly, I would like to address the point of sustainability and how it could be important firstly for you, for Cisco, because I mean, America in the next 20 years probably, but all the world is going to introduce the problem of sustainability in all the companies. So how is it crucial for Cisco to introduce a sustainable supply chain where, of course, we refer to the environment, but as well a healthy relationship with suppliers, customers, and so on?
Yeah, it's you know, you set lofty goals and you have to adhere to those goals. So we have design standards we're trying to achieve. And I think post-consumer regrind using plastics that have been used before and a circular, there's a whole circular economy team at Cisco, and they are applying design standards into our products and trying to be good stewards of the environment about taking back. We take back all of the phones. I was speaking with legacy phones. We will take them back and even pay the customer to take it back from them so that we can recycle it in a meaningful way. But we haven't solved that. I don't think the world has solved that yet, and it's a problem. Do you think our oceans and microplastics in the air that we're breathing? It's a big problem. And you know, assembling microchips onto PCBAs with solder and using glue and adhesives and ultrasonic welding plastics together, the inability to resolve them. And acoustic products have to be sealed, and they use glue and they use all kinds of terrible things. And so even when you think recycling is not circular whatsoever. So we're at the inception of a massive need globally and massive shifts and opportunities for people like you to understand the problem and find new ways of dealing, working with this problem. And modularity in circuit board design is important. Taking things back, batteries, like, they don't last forever in electric cars, and battery power is very dirty and expensive, and so is hydrogen. There's no solution out there. There's optimization and changes, and I think it's it's like that PhD scientist level that will have to solve some of these problems for us. But we can do the best that we can by thinking about it and adding and having lofty goals like emissions goals and factory standards, like working standards. They've come a long way, but we have a long way to go still. There's a lot of people that work a lot, like hours and hours in factories to get things done. And you see the push for unions at Amazon factories, and the amount of COVID spread in these factories because they don't have the airflow. It's inhumane, but you have to take a stand and you have to do something about it. So I think if that's where your passion is, I think you have a massive opportunity to be a sustainable steward for large corporations and to work with doctoral people within your university to resolve these solutions and consult and provide certifications. Those are important things to do. I don't have the solution. Cisco doesn't have the solution. We have lofty goals and we're trying to achieve it, but it's not like just because we build electric cars, we get carbon offsets, we sell the offsets. That's not circular. That's not sustainable. I want to hear from you what you think, though, because really your generation will have to solve these problems for the generations previous to me.
Yeah, I totally agree. We have this burden to follow. I think that maybe sustainability is the big challenge for the future for companies, because I mean, we are in that generation when really environment is cared, or we are trying to care environment, but as well, I think that there is these great changes from your generation, from ours. I mean that companies are really interested in sustainability because it means also to reach competitive advantage over other companies. And as well, probably you are trying to establish some sort of care for the environment, but as well an advantage. And for advantage, we mean, of course, revenue, profits, and so on. That I think this is the main challenge, because I mean we can't avoid a reduction of lead time with transportation, avoiding to use cargos or planes is actually it's impossible, but we can work on it. For example, many companies are trying to establish some kinds of relationship with suppliers, just with suppliers that have, as you were saying, certification. So being aware that the relationship with other companies is healthy for the environment, but not only. So this is our burden, and we inherited that. So it will be the upcoming future and the upcoming problem issue that we have to solve.
Absolutely. It's not to exploit the environment. It's to have it thrive and us to live in it. Yeah, absolutely. And the supplier thing is, I can't qualify a supplier unless they have a strategy around sustainability. You know, just like put that rule in force, and they have to do it, and then it'll come. But yeah, man, that's a great mindset. We have jobs at Cisco for you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Brilliant.
Anything else?
So fantastic. So I think it's fine. And thanks a lot, Dario and Jason. So if you have a last message to give to my students, you are welcome. And then we stay in touch for future collaboration.
Please stay in touch.
Yeah.
And ask me questions, LinkedIn, whatever.
Yeah, we use a lot of LinkedIn, and so we have a very strong network, and we stay in contact with you for sure. For sure.
Excellent. Yeah.
Dario,
Yes,
where
absolutely.
are you from? The last sentence.
Yeah, don't be shy. Reach out on LinkedIn. Tell us, hey, we are the Tor Vergata guys, because then I'm sure that we're gonna talk to you right away, and we don't think it's somebody who wants to sell something to Cisco. They usually pings us on LinkedIn, 2 or 3 a day. That hey, I got this great product. Well, I want to talk to you. Yeah, so say, hey, I'm one of Andrea Appolloni's students, and I have this question for you, and then I will absolutely be very responsive. And never stop dreaming. Think big. This is my my recommendation for you. Think big. Be curious. Don't think the world is perfect and there's a linear way for you to reach your objective. And if you're not stick to that path, you get depressed. The path to success and to personal growth is not linear. It's going to be made of hard learnings. It's going to be made of opportunities. Never be afraid of taking an opportunity because you think you're not going to be able to deliver in the context of that opportunity. You'll be able to learn fast. You have a ton of resources for learning. You have YouTube. You have blog posts by very knowledgeable people. You have books. So take on big challenges. Think big. Think positively, and you'll have fun. That is and never stop never stop looking for the next challenge. The day you're going to be slave of your paycheck and you'll be doing the same thing for a year, and you'll have a 9-to-5 job from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. You are going to be a dead man walking. And I'll try to find ways to do more, to learn more, to do things outside your comfort zone. That is a fun part for life, and I think pursuing passions and challenges will get you very far.
Fantastic, Dario. Fantastic. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. So I think it's fine. Michele, are you there?
Sì, sì, sì.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
We can close the meeting with you.
This is a big responsibility.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So I thank you again for the invitation, and I followed with interest, and I hope that also everybody knows that at university there are two main activities. One is teaching and training, which is the core of this meeting. But there is another activities that Andrea and colleagues like mine are pursuing, that is research. And research is something in line with what Dario was saying 2 minutes ago. Research means don't stop, never stop thinking that the solution is already found. There is always another one. I started this meeting introducing the revolution of 5G, but people are already working for 6G. 5G is just started, but someone in the world is already working for 6G. So don't stop learning, first of all, because to make research, you must learn. And okay, best wishes for all our students, our wonderful students.
Thanks a lot, Michele. Thank you. So, and every time that I am trying to call you, there are some connectivity problems. I don't know why. You're a professor in telecommunication, but so it's funny.
But I use facilities designed and developed by someone else. This is my justification. I'm not responsible.
Dario, thanks a lot. I hope we can meet in Frosinone.
Absolutely. Yeah. I hope we will meet in Frosinone. I don't know if this year I'll be able to come here in the US. They put a veto for traveling towards Italy. Well, not a veto. It's the travel advisory is level 4, which is the highest. No travel. Yeah, don't go to Italy. High level of pandemics and a pinch of terrorism risk. I don't know what they have, any intelligent information or something. That probably just COVID out of control, but they don't want to bring back to the US new variants of the virus.
So I told to my students, our story in Frosinone. So
yeah, absolutely. We used to play basketball together. We were at school together. He was older. Andrea is older than me by 1 year, and yeah, we've always been. We organized together the school, the high school parties, and we were the guys putting together. Yeah.
So thanks a lot, Jason, again. And so we can close here. And Dario and Jason, if you can stay a little bit more, we can
sure.
just discuss with Michele a little bit.
Absolutely.
So thanks a lot to Arianna, Martin, Imma, Noemi, and the new one, Martina. Thanks a lot for the organization.
Thank you, everybody.
Well done.
Thank you so much.
Grazie.
See you next time.
Bye-bye.
It was a pleasure.
Bye.
Andrea, tu vedi...
Eccomi. Sì, ci sei?
Collegato anche c'è un mio collega
bene, sì, sì.
Cesare Rosetti che pure rimane...
Introducilo, sì, sì.
Sì, adesso...
Professore, noi dobbiamo rimanere o ci sentiamo dopo?
No, io mi faccio proprio 5 minuti con loro, potete anche rimanere, o se no ci vediamo tra 5-10 minuti se non vi crea problemi.
No, ci dica lei. Tanto è per la logistica per dopo, quindi non si preoccupi.
Torniamo tra 5-10 minuti, non si preoccupi.
Esatto.
E allora ci vediamo tra 10 minuti.
Grazie.
Al massimo mi faccia uno squillo.
Grazie.
Ok.
Thank you, Jason.
Hey,
Bye.
thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.